Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Planning Committee meeting of Biddle Town Council on Tuesday, the 15th of October. The preamble before we start the meeting. This meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Biddle Town Council YouTube page. The aim is that decision-making should be transparent and in the public domain, which will involve more of our community in local democracy. By being in this council chamber, you are consenting to being recorded and for your image to be added to YouTube. The images and sound may be used for training purposes. Any views expressed are the speaker's own and do not necessarily reflect the view of Biddle Town Council. Please view the guidance on recording and public meetings policy if you need more information. Thank you. Madam Chief Officer, do we have any apologies?
Yes, quite a few. This evening we've got apologies from councillors Holdsworth, Redfern, Salt, Harper and Smith.
Thank you. Do we have any deputies for this or substitution?
No, non-nominated.
No nominated substitutions. Okay, right. Fine. So item 37, declarations of interest. Do you have any disclosable pecuniary interests and dispensations you wishes to declare? That'll be a no. Thank you. Any other interests? That'll be a no. Thank you very much. So moving on to the minutes of the meeting, to approve the minutes of the Planning Committee held on Tuesday, the 17th of September, 2024. These have been through Town Council, so can I have someone to propose those, please? Councillor Yates proposing, second. Can we take those as a true and accurate record of the meeting? Show of hands, please. I think that's fairly unanimous.
I'm not voting, Chair, because I wasn't there.
Okay. You're voting. Same as you're voting. Yeah. Thank you. Right. So those meetings have been approved. Shall I sign those for you now?
Yes.
Talk amongst yourselves, please. For a moment. Otherwise, I will forget to do it before the end of I'll leave the building. Today is the 15th of. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, moving on to receive the notes from the Neighbourhood Plan Working Group meeting held on 25th of September 2024. And I have a proposer for those. Thank you, Councillor Hawley. Seconder. Okay, right. Now, having read the Neighbourhood Plan Working Group meeting notes, you will notice that there have been some changes to the format of the planning application summary. We now have 3 categories on the Neighbourhood Plan policies. Yes, if it complies. No, if it doesn't comply, and not applicable if it doesn't actually, that policy doesn't apply to the planning application. Just a bit of clarification in order that we can actually submit the summary to the planning authority, to SMDC, to ensure that they are taking due notice of the neighbourhood plan. Okay. So can I have a show of hands for people to receive the notes from the Neighbourhood Plan Working Group?
I wasn't there.
Matt, you're receiving them, yeah. Receiving them to this meeting rather than for an accurate record.
Some jobs for that.
We're allowing the proposer and the seconder to cover that item. Okay, right. Moving on to item 39, standing agenda item to consider any proposed sites for local listing. Have we had any?
There's no new sites. Got a bit of a sort of a delay with that now, whilst there's a new conservation officer being recruited at the district council. So I've been asked to go back in the new year to pick those up again. So hopefully we'll get some movement with those in the new year.
Okay, right. Thank you very much. Right. Okay. Item 40 to note feedback from the district council planning department in relation to the inclusion of the neighbourhood plan in planning decisions for Biddulph. Chief Officer Liz's response to the letter you sent to him?
Yep, so I wrote to the head of planning to say that none of the decisions since the neighbourhood plan had been made in January referenced the neighbourhood plan. There are a couple recently that have started to do that. And I highlighted that as an issue that we'd like a resolution to. Got a response back to say he was very sorry, hadn't been aware. At the next kind of team meeting or however they share their ideas, he would raise that both with officers and with those who kind of sign off the reports to ensure that in future that happens. So I think that's as much as we can ask for at this point. We just have to kind of monitor that actually does happen.
Yep. So I think in the light of the moment, it's reasonably conciliatory that's come back from the planning authority. There wasn't an action on me to raise a question on the portfolio holder regarding this. In light of the response we've had from the from Ben Hayward, the Chief Officer decided we'll hold our fire on that one to see if they do actually pick it up and take notice moving forward. When we come to the next neighbourhood plan implementation meeting, if we're still seeing poor inclusion of the neighbourhood plan policies, then we'll revisit that again in terms of raising it at the district council meeting. Thank you. Councillor Hall and then Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, I'm just sort of wondering, I mean, one of the things that we said at the implementation meeting was that if they got reds on, which effectively was they weren't complying to,
Yes.
Basically, district councillors would call those plans in rather than them actually being basically dealt with by the planning officers. So are you proposing then that we do that now, from now on, or are you going to wait and see what happens? I'll answer that question first before I come to the next one. The suggestion was that if we've anything we firmly believe does not comply with the neighbourhood plan, then we will call it in to the planning meeting to have it discussed rather than it go through as a delegated decision. That'll only be once at the end of the meeting we're in agreement that it has not complied with the neighbourhood plan policies, rather than my initial assessment, which will be on the planner for me for the moment. Yeah. But yes, the answer is yes, we'll carry on doing that. Yeah. Councillor Jackson.
Yeah. We were the first one, were we not, to actually get a neighbourhood plan through across the district?
I thought there were some parishes that actually got one through prior to us. I mean, obviously, I think we're the first town.
Yeah.
But
there are others sort of in the pipeline and going through the process.
There are.
Perhaps this might be worthwhile, just having a quick email around the parishes and districts or towns that might be going along this, and sort of highlight to them that this is something that you need to be pushing as well, because of the several parishes that are all singing off the same hymn book. It seems to me as though the district is not 100% enamoured.
I think I understand where you're coming from.
About local neighbourhood planning, and that was an impression I had when the system was sort of first started off many years ago. So I'm just thinking that if we collectively say we've got to make the district aware and take cognizant of the local plans that have been passed.
I think certainly I know Checkley have got a neighbourhood plan, haven't they? Because that's and Councillor Thunder was involved in that, and we have had an informal discussion about the fact that we've not seen this from the Biddulph neighbourhood plan. So yes, if you want to make a proposal that we contact the other local neighbourhood plan.
Well, that's what I just.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're proposing that, do you want to take a seconder for that proposal? Thank you, Councillor Yates. We're all happy for that to go forward.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So just a.
Yeah. So I suppose it's just a quick email then, isn't it? What's your experience so far?
Yeah.
Just a heads up.
Yes.
Let them know.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. So anything else on item 40?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Thank you. Okay. Right. So moving on to the new planning applications, you will have been sent my initial summary of them. So if we start with 2024-0448, Mrs. Cromer Hayes, 28 Highfield Road, East Biddulph, to replace an existing rear conservatory. Essentially, it's taking conservatory of the same size, replacing it with a new updated conservatory. The only comment I would make is that the new conservatory is a partially roofed structure rather than being a full glass roof, which I think is, I'm not certain what the specific definitions of conservatories are, but I have a feeling it's glass roofed. Materials, the existing one is white polycarbonate sheets, white frames of polycarbonate sheets, and it's proposed to have a carbon grey replica tile with toughened glass sheets on the roof, and the existing white UPV will be a proposed white UPVC as well with double glazing. No design access statements, no supporting statements or main points. It's not in the green belt. It's
not BNG, and as far as I can assess, it doesn't come into contact with any of the current neighbourhood plan policies. My recommendation would be to no adverse comments, because I don't think we can go for or against. I would query whether or not it's actually an orangery, so not like for like, but discussion point. What do people think?
I'm just going to say your query. I just find it a bit pedantic. I don't think it really is necessary.
Oh, I thought that's exactly.
Yeah, to be honest, Chair, a lot of people would have just done that and not even put an application.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just
AC is exactly the right response.
okay. So are we happy with NAC? We're all happy with NAC? Have a show of hands, please. Okay, right.
Yeah.
No. Okay, right. Moving on to the second one that was received in advance of the meeting. SMD 2024-0195. This gets a bit confusing. Mr. John Colclough of Mere Construction and Building Limited. This is for 100 Congleton Road, Biddle, Staffordshire. This is actually an application for the approval of reserve matters from two of the conditions from the original planning application from 2022. The two conditions that they're requesting that their approval of having met them is the first condition, which was further submission of full reserve matters within 3 years, which is basically details of the development, the appearance, scale, layout, landscape, access, etc. And the second was condition 5, which is the submission to include the details of the development shall include and incorporate a habitat enhancement scheme that has been based on the observations and recommendations of a qualified ecologist to ensure BNG compliance with local plan and with local plan policies NE1 and NE2. Right, so the development that's been submitted is a single 4-bedroom detached property, very similar to the previous outline plan permission that was granted with minor changes to the internal layout. Plans and elevations appear similar, though that's covering the appearance and layout and scale. The hard surface and planting plan has been included along with a tree survey, which covers part of the landscape. The site layout shows a different driveway opening, which is no longer 2 vehicles wide. On the original application, the driveway came in wider initially and then narrowed part the way up. This one just has a wider splay onto the road, onto the access. There are no materials. There's no material detail in this application. The presumption is that they are the original application. There's no design and access statement provided, but as I say, the design looks like what was on the outline approval. However, the access driveway into the Congleton Road looks a bit different, as I mentioned earlier. In terms of the tree survey, it's quite comprehensive, but it is only a tree survey. There's no ecological survey in terms of wildlife on the site. The planting plan that's been included does show bird, bat and bat boxes and hedgehog boxes and lots of hedgehog access points, but there's no supporting ecology survey as far as I can see. And it's difficult to see from what's been submitted how it would comply with how biodiversity net gain is demonstrated. So it's not in the green belt. BNG is applicable quite clearly from the fact that it's referred to neighbourhood plan, local plan policies NE1 and NE2. I believe that our NE1 natural environment features is relevant to this, and I don't believe it's actually complying with that. Housing HOU 1 is applicable. It does comply. Critical road junctions, I'm a bit dubious on this one. It's not actually on the critical road junction of the Thames Road roundabout, but it comes out just ahead of it. So I don't know whether we need to consider that or not. I think it quite clearly does have sustainable drainage from the design, and the public realm car parking all seem fine. I'm being a bit pedantic here again. I'm suggesting refusal on the grounds that there's no demonstrable net biodiversity gain evidence, but it may be that we refer that to the planning officers because it's actually in their ballpark. So as I made in the comments, it complies with most of the neighbourhood plan policies that it refers to, but the lack of the ecology survey may be an issue, and I'm not sure whether or not the Thames Drive junction is an issue. So.
May I add at this point?
Yeah.
This property, I didn't realise which one it was
Yeah.
until I've gone on Google Maps.
Yeah.
We are a neighbour on our allotment site for this.
Yeah, I think I did mention that as well somewhere, yes.
We'll need to reference that we acknowledge that we are a neighbour. Not that that's a kind of pecuniary or any other type of interest, really. We will just acknowledge that.
Okay, right. So I've got Councillor Jones, Councillor Hawley. Did I have any other hands? I don't think I did. I don't know who came up first. I'll go around the table.
Thank you, Chair. Is this to build a new dwelling?
Yes. 4-bedroom detached house. What was half of the garden?
How can you do a BNG? How can you get a biodiversity net gain by building a house?
You might very well ask that question, Councillor.
It does not apply. BNG does not apply, does it?
I'll come back. Are you going to clarify on that, Councillor Yates?
Yeah, we've been talking about this general principle, and I think we're going to offer a training session to all parish councillors because it is an important thing. You either put the biodiversity net gain on the site by actually doing a survey and assessing what diversity is at this moment in time. Biodiversity does not mean necessarily square meterage. It means the difference in quality of the different species which are on the site. So if you do a biodiversity survey and you come up with a habitat which supports 20 different species, then you have to, in your development, you have to add 10% of that. So you have to create a habitat which supports 22 species, for example. Yeah. So that's the biodiversity net gain, so to speak. And there's an area aspect of that. A lot of developments will have to offset their biodiversity net gain elsewhere.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. So effectively what they would do is effectively buy or put in a fund which is called biodiversity net gain credits, which goes to a landowner who has got the capacity to increase biodiversity. So effectively one of those landowners who is actively hoovering up biodiversity net gain credits is Staffordshire Moorlands District Council, because that is the funding which is going to be used to make our green spaces more biodiverse. For example, the projects which are going to be going on at Halls Road Playing Field and the Biddle Valley Park, the funding needs to come somewhere, and the obvious funding is developer contributions of biodiversity. Now, small developments do not have to give that biodiversity net gain. I question whether this would have to give biodiversity. Yeah, I would.
If I can, Councillor Yates, within the original
I saw the
approval, it did specify that there had to be biodiversity net gain on this site.
They've got a hedgehog box.
That's where my comments are coming from. So
the hedgehog box is probably enough.
I don't know. That's what
I'm not being facetious. There's that kind of intervention which you're talking about.
I fully understand that. So that's why I say that there is information in there in terms of pictures, but there isn't anything explicitly that demonstrates it in terms of stating it. So,
if I may just check,
you can.
I just think this is. I know we've got we've got to be ecologically sound and conscious and progressive and all the rest of it. It seems to me absolutely balmy if you've got a plot that you can build one house on or two houses on, to expect that to have a BNG after you build houses. It's absolutely balmy. Because most, you're going to fill the site up relatively full. You're not going to offset it anywhere. I just don't think it should apply. Unless there's a pond full of great crested newts on that bit of ground. It's not green belt.
No, it's
there's a section 106 contribution, but it happens to be a biodiversity. Not because they've done this, they're going to have to fund something to actually replicates or improves somewhere else.
I think you've quite clearly explained that already, Councillor Yates. So basically, irrespective, if biodiversity net gain applies to the site, and clearly it was on the original planning permission that it does apply to the site, then they have to do some form of biodiversity net gain mitigation. They can't do it on the site itself. They need to do it on a close site. And if they can't do it on a close site, then they can buy the credits elsewhere. But
if I may, Chair,
I think that's a planning issue specified by the current planning regulation.
But if I may, Chair, the application we're looking at is for approval of reserved matters. Approval of reserved matters. Are either of those any of those reserved matters Why have they got to be approved? What are they? What are they approved?
So say condition 5 is the one that refers specifically to biodiversity net gain.
We've got to,
And the statement,
they're asking for approval of that.
no, they're asking for effectively, so those, to say that those conditions have been met.
Right. Okay.
That's what we're approving, that they have met those conditions that were laid down in the original.
Okay. Well,
And that's the point I'm making, is that if the requirement was that it shall include and incorporate a habitat enhancement scheme that is based on the observations and recommendations of a qualified ecologist to ensure BNG compliance with the local plan. They've got a picture that suggests there might be habitat enhancement because of the hedgehog boxes, but there is nothing that that clearly demonstrates that that's been provided by a qualified ecologist, which was the specific wording of the original condition. Before I come back to you, councillors, can I just see what Councillor Hawley had to say on this one? Because I think
I wasn't actually going on the BNG. I mean, all I would actually say on that at the moment was that effectively, by the sound of it, we don't feel that has been met, and I think potentially that's the thing that we should state and actually leave that then up to the planning office to make that decision. So the thing that I was coming on is that basically we've actually got a no against critical road junctions.
that's for debate on. Yeah,
I personally, I don't think that effectively it's a no against a critical road junction. But the one thing I do feel is that we need some sort of statement from the highways as potentially how this altering the size of the exit entrance from the site affects the road, because potentially down that end of Congleton Road, the parking and everything is absolutely abysmal, and I think that needs some sort of statement from the highways department before we actually sort of say yes, this should be approved. So that's the sort of thing I'm coming to anyway.
That's on the second point that we've got. Okay, so right. Councillors, did you want to come back with something new on the biodiversity net gain?
Yeah, only that we have a biodiversity officer whose primary role is to assess these kind of planning applications, basically, because he works out whether there is a biodiversity net gain credit to be charged or whether it's actually met on site. So that will be done. You can make reference to, our recommendation is that the biodiversity officer is satisfied that the requirements of biodiversity net gain on this site are met. But I think that's as far as we can go. It's not for us to judge.
Yeah, absolutely.
On that one. The other thing I'll say, I do actually agree with Councillor Hawley. I mean, they've increased the turn-in display. The one thing which does reassure me slightly, and it's only a reassurance, on the vehicular access, the driveway, is that this is not the closest driveway to the roundabout. There was already a property, which is number 100.
On the screen.
Number 100, which has got a driveway close to the roundabout. So this is higher up the road.
This is 100.
This is 100. The 100. It's a dual driveway. The driveway services both 100 and the new property. The land upon which this is being built was formerly the garden.
Yeah.
Of number 100.
Yeah, I accept that. But on the location,
it's the first driveway after
that driveway. Then,
yeah. And originally, on the original plans that were submitted in 2022, the driveway at the bottom, 2 cars wide, specifically stated in order that you didn't have vehicles waiting on the road to turn in.
I would suggest that the reason they probably haven't done that is that if you put your little man on Congleton Road and look at it, there is so much biodiversity which they would have to destroy to do the driveway. Perhaps that is a concession to the biodiversity not being good.
Yeah. So I think the recommendation on this was essentially that if we are being consulted on what we would recommend, that it's refused subject to them actually, unless they've actually can demonstrate biodiversity net gain to the satisfaction of the biodiversity officer, and that highways are happy that the changes to the access to the property would not present problems close to the critical junction. Does that sound like a reasonable response?
With the point, I was just going to say, I mean, it isn't a case of the critical junction.
Yeah, just the road generally, yes.
It's a case of the exit and entrance to the site, whether that is going to be the point, because I don't think two cars is going to make a difference to the critical junction.
So
But basically, it's the access to the site.
Access. Okay, so effectively subject to satisfying the biodiversity officer, satisfying the highways that there are no issues there. We haven't had a comment from highways on this at all. Okay, Councillor Jones, did you want to come back with something new?
No, I was going to say I agree with what you've said. But the only other comment I'd make is if he's making the driveway half as wide, then you're tarmacking over less grass, aren't you? So that's an improvement in BNG, sure.
If we could pull up simultaneously the previous application as well, it'd be helpful, but I don't think you can because I couldn't do it on my machine.
yeah, I think what they're trying to avoid is moving a lamppost.
It's entirely possible. Well, no, because it's actually wider onto it's as wide onto the road. It's not what. Yes, if you look at that one, you see there, you can see what they've done there. It's actually wide here, whereas on the new one, if you just toggle back to the new one, there you go. It's basically come down narrow and then gone wide at the end. So, if you're happy with that as a recommendation, that we're minded to recommend refusal unless they can demonstrate biodiversity net gain to satisfy the biodiversity officer, and consultation from the highways to ensure that there is no issues with the access. Okay, thank you. Can I have a show of hands if we're happy with that as a proposal? Okay, thank you. Right, that was the complicated one. Moving on to the third one, which came in as a supplementary. Came in as a supplementary, which is 2024-0458. Applicant is Mr. Ian Hargreaves, is an agent, and the property is 62 St John's Road, Biddle, Staffordshire, for a new vehicle access. Essentially, it's providing access across the access to the hard standing where in front of the property. It's dropping the curb and tarmacking over the current grass verge to allow access to the current hard standing in front of the house. Existing materials is basically it's grass with curbstones, and they're going to put drop curb in. No design access, but I think the plan actually shows it quite clearly coming onto St John's Road. I don't believe it interfaces with any of our neighbourhood plan policies. It would be useful to have a comment from highways on this one as well. Again, recommendation, no adverse comments. I've got, again, doesn't want to open. Okay, I've got Councillor Jones, Councillor Hawley, I've got Councillor Lawton as well. Right, I think you're going up first, John.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I don't think we need to have a big discussion on that. It is NAC, and I'll just make the comment that, you know, a lot of people in St John's Road park on the grass verge anyway, and rip the grass up. So I think somebody's trying to do it properly. I think we should say yes.
Okay, Councillor Hawley?
Yeah, I was just going to say you've got no adverse comments. I'll agree with that, but we also should make it subject to there being no highways adverse comments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll say that. My comment was I think it would be useful to have something from the highways. Councillor Lawton?
Highways again. When I was looking at potential stops, extra bus stops, I was minded that St John's Road had got more than its fair share of central refuges, lampposts and such like to impede such things. I feel they should be considered
formalising what's happened.
Okay, so in that case, I think the proposal here is no adverse comments subject to no adverse comments from highways. Councillor Yates.
They're effectively just formalising what's been happening for a long time by looks of things. If the picture hasn't loaded, it's just effectively a drop curb application.
Yeah.
Existing use.
Yeah. So I'd say I don't think there's anything for or against it. No adverse comments on it. Just a case of, oh yes, wonderful, rotate it round. There you go. So you can see essentially they're driving over the grass verge anyway at the moment. They're just going to drop the curb formally. So
yeah, I think I'd be more concerned about tarmacking over the garden these days, but there you go, it's already been done, hasn't it?
Okay, so in that case, are we happy with that as the proposal? No adverse comments subject to no concerns from the highways. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got a proposal of that from Councillor Hawley. So I'll second that one. Who's just second that? Councillor Jones. Show of hands, please. Okay, thank you. Okay. Wonderful. Moving on. Okay, decisions and notices received from the District Council. So is there anything here where they disagreed with us? No adverse comments approved. No adverse comments approved. No adverse comments.
Baptist Jones.
Approved.
Proposed to recommend approval, but planning commission was approved. So yes, basically they agreed with us on all of those, which was quite nice. Thank you very much. Do we have anyone else got any comments on those? Nope. Item 44, appeals. We have no appeals, it would appear. So as a consequence, at 6 o'clock, I would declare the meeting closed. Thank you.